Hi there, I'm John Kierstead from Arctic Spas, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about cabinets. Now, I know if you've been on our Learning Hub, you've already learned a lot about cabinets, but in that other video, I mentioned that a lot of the companies have gone away from the traditional cedar, and they've moved into all of these different types of plastic materials and rotationally molded materials, plastic mixed with wood, all in an effort to try and make a cabinet that you don't have to do much stuff with. Well, the problem is that it's much easier said than done. You know, most of these plastics have expansion and contraction issues because one might be in sunlight and your summers might get over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and in the winter you might go down to -30, right? So when you have these types of massive differences in temperature, you get expansion and contraction and stuff that takes place, and over time that plus UV light shining on it, the cabinets degrade. And so we used to actually, and wood also degrades with the expansion and contraction, but it's different. Wood's also subject to rotting. So the good thing about the plastic is it doesn't typically rot. That's also a bad thing, because if you have to get rid of that stuff later, how do you get rid of it? It lasts forever. It's a forever plastics, right? So we've been thinking a lot about this. How do we create a product that is going to be durable, it's going to be waterproof, it's not going to expand and contract, it's not going to be subject to UV light. And we started thinking, hey, we did the same thing already once. We have this amazing floor that's available on our Classic Series and Custom Series cabinets. It's called the Forever Floor. And the Forever Floor is a sheet molded composite, or SMC composite, stamped fiberglass floor. This sheet molded composite process is a high-tech process. It's used heavily in like the car industry, anywhere where they're looking for durability, strength to weight ratio, so something that's really strong but doesn't weigh all that much. They have this choice of product, and something that can be made consistently, that's not reliant on how well the tree grew and that sort of thing, right? So, or in a plastics case, there's so many different types of plastic cabinets, and they all have different expansion and contraction ratios. So that's another thing about the sheet molded composite. It doesn't really expand or contract. And so we built this Forever Floor, which was involves making a very, very large stainless steel mold, literally the size of whatever spa. So if you have a 6x7 spa, you need a 6x7 floor. You have a 7x7 spa, you need a 7x7 floor. And each one of these molds is not $1 million, but pretty close. The 8-foot one, I think, was about $1 million. So these are very, very expensive molds, and there's a giant press, a 6,000 ton press that comes out, stamps this thing, and stamps out this floor, which is much, much more strong than when we used to do traditional fiberglassing. Like we used to build these like the old-fashioned boat hulls. You'd spray in some gel coat, well, first some wax, so it'll come out of the mold, and you spray in some gel coat, and then you spray in fiberglass, and you roll it all up and try to get it, and then you pop that out after it's cured and stuff, and you have to put several layers and stuff to do that. And it's very labor intensive, and it's not nearly as strong because it's just laid in, and the pressure to put that together is just arm strength to roll it. Whereas this is a 6,000 ton press. That means 6,000 tons of pressure per square inch, right? So it's very, very strong. Now, Nanook might correct me on the exact amount of tonnage that's required, because I think it changes depending on the size of the mold, how much pressurized they have. But it's a tremendous amount of pressure to squeeze all the air out and mix all the resins and stuff with fiberglass. They do this with. They also do this with carbon fiber. So carbon fiber bodies on high-end cars and stuff like that. This is also the process that's used to do that. So it's a very, very consistent high-tech way of doing it, and that's why we built the floor like that. It also is really moldable. It's a molded composite. So depending on what your mold is, you can stamp this into many really useful shapes. And you'll notice on our Forever Floors, you'll notice that they have actually the runs for the forklifts on all sides of the spa. So you can actually get under there, because as guys like me were moving spas around showrooms and stuff, we're like, oh, my aching back, I don't want to do this anymore, it's so hard. So we can just use a pallet jack, and we can move the spas around this way. It's easy for the forklifts. We used to have to kind of lift it up, throw something something under there so the forklift can get under there and you can have a chance to damage things and stuff like this. This makes it much, much simpler to do that. We're able to put in a lot of times when the wiring and stuff is done, we'll drill a hole through the Forever Floor and come up through there. It's completely sealed, bug-proof, waterproof, UV-proof. It's literally like the hull of a boat, and you think of a big giant ship or something like that. It's very, very strong. It also lasts forever. It does not degrade. It's made out of glass fiber and resins, and so this stuff will be around. I see in the future, archaeologists digging up a Arctic spa, and they'll be able to see these Forever Floors. I think it'll be amazing. But that's not all. These Forever Floors have been such a key part of the quality and construction of the Arctic Spa's cabinetry that they said, what if we just got away from wood and we got away from plastic and we could mold this whole thing the same way we make a Forever Floor? And so I have to hand it to them. They really did an amazing job. They built these molds and with a tremendous amount of investment, because you have to make a lot of parts to make this pay off, right? And so this mold, the molds that they have for this are extremely complicated, expensive, heavy molds, and there's very few places in the world where they actually do something this big. Even car parts are smaller than our floors and stuff. So this is a very large part. So this cabinet that's behind me here, this cabinet, although it looks exactly the same as our standard cabinets, the no maintenance cabinet, the wood plastic composite is not comparable to this at all. First things that I try to get out right away, and I'm going to apologize to all the Arctic Spas delivery people out there. I want to send my apology out to you because this is heavy. This is heavy. It is a lot heavier, even though the strength to weight ratio is 9 times stronger than if we built this out of steel. It's heavy. It's still heavy. When I take the door off here, this door weighs about 50% more than a normal one. So hot tubs weights are going to go up, but that's a one-time problem. There's a few things that I think are really important to show people about this. When the paste or putty of the compound goes into the machine to be stamped, it's a solid color. So when they stamp, that color gets pushed all the way through. So this color on the outside is the same. So if down the road there's any sort of oxidizing or anything that happens, you can just sand this and it'll be the same color underneath. If you damaged or dinged it by hitting it or something like that, again, repair becomes much easier. And it's virtually maintenance free. Unlike when we said no maintenance cabinets before, and I told you in that other video, it's really no maintenance possible. If it fades due to UV or otherwise, there's not much you can do about it. This is much more resistant to fading in the first place. It is also a paintable material, so if you didn't like the color that we have, you could paint it in other colors if you wanted, but as soon as you do that, now you got a maintenance cycle, because now you got to be repainting it and stuff. But you could, if you really want to. So if you want to, a pink one or a blue one or whatever, you could do that, or camouflage, whatever you want. You could paint scenes on it so it fits into your backyard better. I don't know. I'm just being silly, to be quite frank. Here's the thing. Why am I so excited about this? Well, you marry this floor, which is like there's way less boards and stuff. Like on a traditional one, we're putting individual boards tongue and groove together. And we do the same with the cabinet of this. And some of the other lower end panels are a complete sheet of panel, but you still need a strip, and you still need this, and you still need a corner, and all these other pieces. Well, this has very few pieces, right? It's all molded into one. Right? So everything's molded in one. There's a corner piece, there's a side piece, and there's a door piece. And those go together in a perfect fit, right? So now, when you look, you can see when this goes in here, it's completely sealed. And you'll also notice, when I put this in here, you'll see that this is recessed, right? This is recessed in here, so that when this goes in, it's actually right in. You know, we found over the years, like even if you look at the other spas, the doors go on there, there's a spot where the water can actually, over time, cause some water to sit up there, and it can cause expansion and contraction as the water freezes and thaws and freezes and thaws, and it can actually cause your boards to warp and things like that. This prevents that from happening again, and it also prevents everything from escaping. It's a true, like, this is cold to my, oh, there goes the other side. Well, that's good, because that was the piece I was going to show you next, which is right here. When you go into our Arctic Spa showrooms, I often tell people, go and check out. They should have a spa that's in there that's running with no heater connected to it. So we have this hot tub here. When I checked earlier today, it was 102 degrees Fahrenheit. There's no heater connected to it. So like all of our spas, we use a perimeter insulation, and so this design incorporates that perimeter insulation. So now you have an insulated forever floor, an insulated SMC sheet molded cabinet, and it's even got like all the rails and stuff. Now there used to be, if you look at the old videos and stuff, you'll even see where the corners meet the where they meet the edge. There's often some roughness and it's not smooth. Where this comes up here, there's gaps and stuff. This is all one piece. There's no gaps. It's completely solid, right? So very, very strong. It doesn't interfere with our heat lock method. I'll just leave this here so I don't drop it. We'll put that back on after. And you have a cabinet now that, like the floor, in 20 years, this is still the same. I really don't know how long that cabinet could last for, and I truly believe like we're now making a spa that could last, you know, generations. As it turns out, we actually have one of these brand new cabinets just arrived in our Duncan location. The piece that I wanted to talk about was these corners. You know, with the sheet molded composite, we're able to do things that we couldn't do with the traditional. Like if you just look at a traditional one with a corner, this is a corner light here, but we had to put that light in and one board at a time to have that in there. With this model, this was stamped. The corner piece was stamped with this already in, so this sconce housing, and then we just have a sconce that we physically put in here and a light that fits in behind there, and then this light matches the light that's inside the cabinet. And while we're here, I want to point out something. This is only available on 8-foot and 7-foot custom or classic series Arctic spas, and this is a 7-foot spa. So they actually cut the 8-foot cabinetry down, the wall piece down, so that they can use it for both, because these molds are so expensive. And it will be a little while before some of the other sizes of spas will have a forever floor, or a forever cabinet, pardon me. The thing I wanted to point out is that this is still a solid piece. There's no dado, there's no tongue and groove. It's all just one piece. The door is its own piece, the corner piece is its own piece. But these still have to get married up in each of the corners. And we attach them as best we can, but you'll see that they kind of have to split the difference, you know, making sure that everything lines up, because realistically, because the shells, in the way we form the shells, unlike these, aren't exactly the same. They're very close, but as the fiberglass and stuff dries, it can actually pull them slightly differently. So you'll get these very millimeter distances. Now, if you look at the wood versions, we try to get them, but because of expansion and contraction, you'll see sometimes it's tight, and then other times it starts to separate a little bit. That's normal. The one thing is that once this is put together, this won't move very much at all. The whole point of this cabinet is it doesn't expand and contract like other cabinets do. I know that me personally, I'm looking at probably, you know, when there's a bit of a gap there, even though it doesn't affect the performance of the cabinet, I just don't like that something could get snagged on there otherwise. So I'm going to fill this with, I'm going to experiment with a few things, but we have kind of a gray composite that we use for repairing fiberglass that's used on boats and stuff like that. So I'm going to just try some of that and see what that looks like, and maybe that'll be another video how I sealed the grooves here. But what they do at the factory is they're going to get that, and they're going to split the difference and try to keep them as tight as possible. So you'll see there might be a slight little gap. So if there is one drawback, I guess that's the only drawback that you have, but the fact that this cabinet will be around forever, literally, without having to restain or anything like that. Far, far better than a plastic alternative or a wood plastic alternative or even a wood cabinet. This imminently means these spas do not have to end up in a landfill, and I'm really proud of that. This whole thing is just designed to last forever. If any of the bits fail, we can replace bits. As long as you can get to it and touch it, you can replace it. So from a longevity perspective, this is the type of thing that you want. And that leads us to the next thing, which will be the next video we talk about. When we talk about longevity, a longevity conversation without talking about hot tub covers is a missed opportunity. It's not a full conversation. I'm John Kierstead for Arctic Spas Vancouver Island. Thanks for watching this video.